Senior 6 Biology 2026. All of you are going to pass biology. All of you are going to pass biology by force. All of you in Kiswahili mwena mtanakwenda kupasinga vigezo vinu. Now, today we want to go through item 4 that happened in the UNEB Biology Sample Paper 1, that is paper 530/1 theory. Item 4, this is our item, and this is what is inside here. When you look at this item here, there are concepts of transport in humans, there are concepts of histology, but there are also concepts of homeostasis, but mainly transport and also homeostasis are dominating here. Now, let's go through the item here. Full video will be on YouTube, BiologyKingUg. A student was conducted to determine, but whenever you go to YouTube, members, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Help me to develop my channel. A study was conducted. Listen properly. A study was conducted to determine the effects of high altitude on the physiological functioning of an athlete. Hello? Physiology means what, master? Physiology means the functioning of the body of an organism. This one entails anatomy, but also some other aspects. A study was conducted to determine the effects of high altitude on the physiological functioning of an athlete. The effects of high altitude, the aim, they want to know, listens, what are the effects of high altitude on the physiological functioning of an athlete? Good. An athlete was chosen to participate in the study. The study team recorded the resting heart rate of the athlete at low altitude. The resting heart rate of the athlete was recorded at low altitude. Remember, at low altitude, this athlete is usually there, and now is somehow at ease, not very active. We expect the heart not to beat very fast per minute. He was then moved to high altitude. The resting heart rate at low altitude was measured, because the resting heart rate goes with the resting metabolism, and hence what we call basal metabolic rate. That just metabolism required by this athlete to survive. Now he or she was moved to a high altitude. You know, we like a he a lot, as if she cannot be an athlete. Upon arrival at the altitude site, they have taken this whatever to a high altitude site. Upon arrival at the high altitude site, the medical team noted that the athlete's resting heart rate had increased to 80 beats per minute from his normal altitude value of 60 beats per minute. At low altitude value, resting rate was 60 beats per minute. Now look, at a high altitude rate, they noticed that the heartbeat had increased to 80 beats per minute. I want you to follow the story. 2 days later, when they are there, as required by the study, the athlete underwent a rigorous running session to evaluate his physiological response to the new altitude during running. Now, they stay there for 2 days, which are scientifically supported for 2 days for him to somehow start getting used when he's not at an active state, so very active. Now, he or she was made to, I don't know whether I've not heard of he or she, I don't know, was made to undergo a rigorous running session to evaluate he is a he, members, is a he, to evaluate his physiological response to the new altitude during running. So he was made to make a rigorous, maybe it is somewhat not so much strenuous, to see how he responds to the new altitude during running. So far they have seen how he has responded to the new altitude at rest. His heartbeat has increased. Good. Now let's proceed. Let's proceed and say, during the running session, the athlete's heart rate increased further. During the running session, the athlete's heart rate increased further. The blood pH lowered below 7.5, and his performance during the training was poor. Blood pH lowered below 7.5. Hope you know what it means what it means when it comes to enzyme activity in his body. But also, his performance was poor, but also heart rate increased further. So these are the physiological whatever. Resting heart rate increased to 80 beats per minute from low altitude value of 60 beats per minute upon arrival. Now, during the running session, heart rate increased further, blood pH lowered below 7.5. Then performance poor. Now, physiological state recorded. This is the duration that was used. 2 hours before the running, they recorded the physiological state. 30 minutes into the run, they recorded physiological rate. 2 hours after the running, they recorded the physiological state. Now, after running, the pH normalized. Now, this is how they concluded. High altitude did not help the athlete to perform well in the running session. As if for them they had thought that on reaching high altitude automatically, his performance will increase. And that means somewhere they need you to come in to evaluate this statement here, this conclusion. Look, that is their observation. As if for them they expected after reaching there, the performance would increase automatically because it is a high altitude. Now, it was concluded high altitude did not help the athlete perform well in the running session. The study team need ways of using altitude to improve performance of athletes in running activities. They need ways of using altitude to improve performance of athletes in running activities. Full stop. Task A. Analyze the physiological changes in the athlete's body in the study. I'm repeating. Task A. Analyze the physiological changes in the athlete's body in the study. Now, let's first of all go task A to analyze physiological changes in the athlete's body in the study. Now, we begin the analysis. Now, let's begin the analysis. Full video will be on YouTube. Now, look here, members. Look here very well. Now, resting heart rate increased 80 beats per minute from low altitude value of 60 beats per minute. That is a physiological change. This is because now we begin analyzing, because there is what we know. When you go to a high altitude, why should the resting heart rate increase? The reason is one, at high altitude, there is reduced oxygen partial pressures. There are low oxygen partial pressures. You have that challenge the moment you reach there. There are low oxygen partial pressures in the atmosphere. Meaning, to compensate for that, the brain has to somehow command the heart to pump faster such that blood can easily reach other parts all over the body to supply oxygen for aerobic respiration, to provide for you, to provide you with energy at high altitude. Remember, you also have another challenge. At high altitude, your red blood cell count is low compared to what should be required there. Natives of people there, you find that, for example, those ones in Lwenzulu Kingdom, you find them having a very high red blood. You find them having a very high red blood cell count. They have attained it throughout the course of evolution to counter the low oxygen partial pressures at a high altitude. Now, for you, your red blood cell count is low. However, red blood cell count is not one of the parameters here. But now we shall talk about oxygen partial pressures, because I talk about at whatever. So I'm going to say the resting heart rate increased to 80 beats per minute from low altitude value of 60 beats per minute upon arrival to the high altitude, because of the low oxygen partial pressures at high altitude, which are detected by chemoreceptors, in the arterioles, that in turn stimulate the brain to send instructions or to relay instructions via the sympathetic nervous system, which resulted into a rapid pumping of the heart to increase blood supply to other body parts to supply oxygen there, in order to compensate for the reduced oxygen in the body of the athlete. That is why it was whatever. So the brain was stimulated. The brain, on detecting this, it was stimulated to send instructions to the heart via sympathetic nervous system, increasing the heart rate, but also to the arterioles, to the blood vessels, to cause vasodilation of blood vessels. Who does this? The sympathetic nervous system, causing vasodilation of blood vessels. The moment blood vessels vasodilate and widen, and the heart also pumps even at a very faster rate, it means the heart is pumping against reduced cholesterol, reduced peripheral resistance, and hence blood will easily sent there. So what does it mean? That I will say resting heart rate increased to 80 beats per minute from low altitude value of 60 beats per minute upon arrival, due to reduced oxygen partial pressures at high altitude, and hence reduced oxygen concentration in the body of the athlete, which triggered the chemoreceptors to stimulate the brain to send, that reacted by sending instructions via sympathetic nervous system to blood vessels and the heart, causing blood vessels to vasodilate and also the heart to pump faster to pump faster. You get the point? To pump faster in order to supply oxygen to the respiratory tissues. Now there, I want to give you an A1. Why? Because this trend has already been given to you. This trend has already been given to you here. So it is given to you, no A1 there. But to explain the trend, I award you an A there. I award you that score there because you have explained the trend. But I'm not going to give you the mark for the trend, because they want us to explain what is here. We proceed. During the running session, heart rate increased further. During the running session, heart rate increased further. Increased further to 90 beats per minute. Heart rate increased further to 90 beats per minute. Now, since 90 is not quoted here, but it's here in the table here, increased further to 90 beats per minute. Because you've observed that, I can award you an A1. Heart rate increased further to 90 beats per minute. Full stop. This is because during the running session, the athlete needed a lot of energy via aerobic respiration, to facilitate muscle contraction. Therefore, the body responded. The body responded. The brain responded by instructing the heart via sympathetic nervous system to pump faster to increase cardiac output in order to quickly transport oxygen, but also to remove metabolic wastes such as carbon dioxide for expulsion from the body, like that, for expulsion from the body. To stop. So it means there you've explained, because you've talked about it increasing in beating to avail oxygen to different parts of the body due to increase the cardiac output, and consequently respiration proceeds, but also to easily extract metabolic wastes such as carbon dioxide back to the sites where it can be expelled from the body, for example the lungs. That is the point. So that one is an explanation as to why the heart increases even further. There I can give you an AE. I can give it to you there. That is very important to understand. Now, let's proceed. During the running session, blood pH lowered below 7.5. Blood pH lowered below 7.5. What say? This was a result of increased respiration that released carbon dioxide and lactic acid, together increasing proton hydrogen ion concentration in blood, resulting into lowering of the pH. In turn, the pH full stop. This further stimulated a faster heart rate, since it was detected by chemoreceptors in the arterioles that stimulated the brain, the medulla of the brain, to coordinate increased heart rate in order to expel carbon dioxide out of the body, to prevent further decrease of pH, which may be dangerous to enzymes in the body. That is also very important. You can also that is also very important to quote it there. Now, that is the point here. Now, there is a question here. They can, when you look at here, they are saying that the performance was poor. Now, what happens is that that is some of the content you can write down while analyzing this kind of data. Feel free to talk about what I might have forgotten to talk about. Feel free to put it in the comment section. Feel free. What do you think? Not only by the question to ask you, but you can also supplement that. You see, what do you think we have not hinted on? What do you see that we have not hinted on? Because members, task A was analyze the physiological changes in the athlete's body in the study. Analyze the physiological changes in the athlete's body in the study. Our task was whatever. We had to base on these ones here. So we have talked about heart rate. We are done with heart rate. We are done with heart rate here. We have talked about these changes here that I mentioned here. We can proceed also and talk about these parameters here. Why do you think skeletal blood supply, blood to skeletal muscles? Why do you think, we need also to analyze here. Why do you think blood to skeletal muscle also increase from 500, whatever? We have to give a reason. So blood to skeletal muscles increased from 500 centimeters per minute. Blood supply, whatever, the muscle, increase from 500 cubic centimeters per minute to 1000 cubic centimeters per minute during the running. Okay, increase it from 500 cubic centimeters per minute before per minute when at rest to 1000 cubic centimeters per minute. To 1000 cubic centimeters per minute. Per minute, while blood supply to the intestines and liver decreased from 400 cubic centimeters per minute to 200 cubic centimeters per minute. You see, as blood to skeletal muscles was increasing, blood to the intestines and liver was decreasing. You can continue and say this was because of differential saturation. Hello? This was because of differential saturation, where blood vessels to the liver and intestines underwent constriction, limiting blood supply there, while blood vessels to muscles underwent vasodilation to increase blood supply there. How are they coordinated? Those to the liver and the intestines will be coordinated by the parasympathetic nervous system, which will cause their constriction. When they constrict, they increase peripheral resistance. Once peripheral resistance increases, blood supply to those areas is going to decline, because the heart is also doesn't want to give itself a lot of activity, whatever. Now, because blood vessels to skeletal muscles have vasodilated, it means more blood is going to be supplied there. Boys, I think, male students, I think you know. You have, when I talk of differential saturation, you understand what I'm trying to mean. Sometimes some parts of the area are very, very, very tough because blood is highly supplied there. And some of them, there is someone was sharing with me of recent that when the other part becomes very, very tough and very angry, then the legs get paralyzed. And my reply to him probably was due to reduction in the supply of blood in those areas of the leg because of differential saturation. The other blood vessels constrict, and consequently, nutrients are not supplied there enough. So that is whatever. But I gave him a particular strategy. You'll come to my inbox in WhatsApp and I'll tell you the strategy I gave him. So that is the point. So that was because of differential saturation. That's very important. I'll talk about that. Lastly, let's talk about temperature. Temperature increased. We say, however, another important thing we have to note here also is that heart rate increased. Heart rate after the running. Where we talked about heart rate, you have also to talk about this fact here. Heart rate after the running decreased from 90 back to 80 beats per minute because the athlete was still at a high altitude. So this one was the baseline here. So we are going to talk about now temperature here. Let's talk about temperature here. Now temperature increased from 30 degrees Celsius at rest to from 37 degrees Celsius at rest to 37.8 degrees Celsius during the running session. This was because of the increased rate of metabolism. Where respiration increased further, resulting in some energy being lost as heat energy. Remember, and hence increasing temperature of the athlete. Remember, the role of respiration has never been to form heat. Why is it that whenever we eat good food like matoke, your temperatures rise? Why do our temperatures rise whenever we eat very good meal like matoke and let me say good sauce? For example, meat. Even me, but me, I don't easily meat. I don't like meat. I eat like 8 pieces per meal if I get meat, but I don't eat much meat. Now, why is that? When you take good food, our body temperature increase. The reason is that the cause is the inefficiency of respiration, as the respiratory mechanism of your body is not 100% efficient. That's why we say that even the other 38 net ATP formed by glucose molecule is also hypothetical. It may never reach there. It may be about 36, 35, whatever, because of some disorders in the some limitations within the respiratory apparatus of some one individuals, whatever. So that was it. That is what. So respiration increase it to provide the ATP, which has to drive muscular contraction and other active processes such as transportation of material of nutrients against their concentration gradients, muscle contraction, for example, nervous coordination, where the sodium potassium pump has to also act. It expends energy, and many other processes that has to occur during vigorous exercise. Protein synthesis to make for you enzymes, what all of them are active processes. So that's why ATP is needed. However, because of the inefficiency of this respiratory apparatus of an individual, of this athlete, that's why some of the energy from the fuels, such as carbohydrates or lipids, was lost as heat, which resulted heat energy, which resulted in increase of the body's temperature. So that is task A. Task B, as we are winding up, propose measures the study can use to ensure altitude benefits athletes. Now, members, this whatever were very, very, very interesting. They said, look at this statement here. They said high altitude did not help. They concluded like this, but this is now someone who sets an item. It just does it intentionally. I don't think that they don't know. High altitude did not help the athlete to perform well in the running session. Did not help the athlete to perform well in the running session. That's how they whatever they come. For them, they expect it. They would perform very well in the running session. No, things don't like one like that. So they like propose measures to study. The study can use to ensure altitude benefits athletes. The first measure to ensure the exercise at the high altitude takes some good days, and giving the athlete appropriate resting periods to give him time to get adapted to high altitudes. So it should take days to give, because as if they spent a few days there. They spent even, I think, a few hours, if I'm not mistaken, a few hours or even days. Now, they spent some good days there to get adapted. Now, during the adaptation, what is likely to occur? So staying, I can go now and explain that. Staying for some good period of time at the high altitude, we help the athlete undergo acclimatization. Where the kidney produces a protein called erythropoietin. Yeah, I don't have space here. Called erythropoietin. Pray for me such that I get a very large blackboard, so that I use it to teach your younger sisters and brothers who are coming to senior 6 next year. Now, when the athlete takes some good time there, the kidney will produce a protein called erythropoietin. This protein erythropoietin will go to the bone marrow and induce a process called erythropoiesis. Resulting in formation where red blood cells are being produced. Okay, red blood cells are being produced to increase the red blood cell count. So acclimatization has got different aspects. These are the benefits of him staying there for some good time. One, red blood cell count will increase because of erythropoiesis occurring in the bone marrow to form very many red blood cells, the young ones which will mature into the adult red blood cells. 2, muscles will increase in terms of muscle tone. In terms of muscle tone will increase. Muscle tone increase, meaning the muscles will grow stronger in the limbs to facilitate running at high altitude very well. That one is also part of acclimatization. You can think about increase in red blood cell count due to erythropoiesis as a result of erythropoietin secreted by the kidneys that goes to the bone marrow to facilitate that. Secondly, increase in terms of muscles getting increased muscle tone, and they can easily manage running at high altitudes. That one is also very important to understand. Increase red blood cell count, remember, increases surface area for oxygen capture. Don't remember that. Don't forget that. But also increase in surface area for carbon dioxide, for transport carbon dioxide. The carbon dioxide. Remember, carbon dioxide is transported in form of an equation within the society, where carbonic acid is to give bicarbonate ions and protons like that together. I hope you understand that one there. Another thing we can advise, giving athletes enough water to get hydrated to prevent or to reduce the risk of muscle cramps. If you are dehydrated, your chances of developing muscle cramps easily are very high. These are as a result of accumulation of lactic acid. So it means if they take enough water, the muscles will be hydrated, and the formation of muscle cramps will be less easily, because remember, this acid will be diluted by the water and what have you, and also muscles will be very healthy. That one is very important. But also, the other thing we have to talk about there, staying there for some good time, remember, it also, time will come and this athlete no longer produces a lot of lactic acid in the body because it's used. If you are used to altitude, you want to be like that. You want to be like a newcomer. You are likely to produce less lactic acid, and because you are already used, meaning you can even undergo aerobic respiration even at strenuous exercise at high altitude. Master, why yet someone is already getting short of or whatever oxygen? No. Remember, the red blood cell count increased because of erythropoiesis in the bone marrow. Younger man and girl, don't forget that that one I told you. Once red blood cell count increases, it means the surface area to capture oxygen also increases. I want you to comprehend that. Don't make a mistake or not fail not to understand that. And with that, I'm waiting for your contributions in the comment section. Yeah, but also I lose a lot of ATP discussing. Feel free to send your soda for appreciation. God will be happy. God loves people who love teachers. Send soda for appreciation. You see, I'm very slim. I need to increase my weight. I'm about now, you see, I have about 180 kilograms, which is not good. I'm underweight. I need at least something like 400 kilograms. Thank you very much. May God bless you. I wish you success in your UACE exams, UNEB 2026. Feel free to come to my inbox. My number is there. Come to my inbox. Tell me what you want. I will help you. We become friends. May God bless you. Listen, I've said, kama zizi zitanatwala kusini zizi